If you thought your crypto portfolio was doing bad, you gotta realize for a second that there are companies out there that specialize in buying cryptos, right? And they've been buying billions of dollars worth over the past couple of months. And when the crypto market falls like 10%, they also lose hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, just take a look at this right here, for example. Forward Industries previously purchased 6.8 million Solana. You know, a light 6.8 million. That was about $1.34 billion. They bought it at an average price of $233, 32 actually, and is now staring down paper losses exceeding $245 million. So they bought it for $1.58 billion. Right now it's worth about $1.34 billion, and it makes you realize you're not down that much. And again, if you're asking me what the big destruction of the crypto market is going to be, I still stand by the idea that it is going to be these digital asset treasuries, some of these, but then in a way more significant form. Meaning this, we're talking about like 1 billion, we're talking about some money. It's a lot, sure. But relative to the size that is most likely coming, the tens of billions of dollars I think will be inserted soon, I personally still think this is almost nothing. And I think that the implosion, the end of the bull market, will be marked by one of these. Or you have to think about it from another angle. MicroStrategy, Bitcoin's fund, or MicroStrategy's Bitcoin fund, it would get liquidated at what? $70,000 a Bitcoin, maybe something like that. I don't know the exact price. Maybe they help their numbers out a little bit. Maybe it's 50,000 a Bitcoin. Don't really matter. You have to understand that if Bitcoin were to hit that number, if a certain crypto were to hit one of these numbers, and billions upon billions upon billions of dollars get wrecked, first of all, there's a lot of people first who are not going to let that happen. A lot of interesting borrow is going to take place, but also if it's to do with either CZ, so Binance and the Binance people, right? With Bitcoin, with MicroStrategy, etc. If it's all these very proper coins, the probability of it happening is so small, and if it does, we're going to see such an astronomical FTX, Luna, whatever type of crash that, that we deserve it, right? I would not be sad if I go down 90% of my portfolio if all of a sudden Binance were to go down or something, you know? Anyway, before we move on, guys, if you've not done it yet, make sure you go ahead and press that like button, you know? It doesn't hurt you. And I want to see how many people here are still holding on to their cryptos. I mean, the last couple of days have not been easy. Let me know down below if you're still holding on. Anyway, I want to show you this one post, especially if you're not loving your crypto portfolio right now, you're not having the best of times. Take a look at this. You struggle for 4 years, then suddenly in 1 month you achieve more than your 4 years. Trust your voice crack, brother. Trust your grind. Okay, voice crack aside, that was supposed to be a nice little message for y'all, because I remember also, if I look throughout my trading journey, really, the majority of the crazy gains happen in a very short amount of time. And that's why I always warn you guys about the bull market and how it's going to look. We've been in a bull market since November, October 2022, so it's been almost 3 years. This is somewhere close towards the end. But really, the craziest part is a smaller part at the end, like we always say. It's the thing that makes the bucket topple over, or flow over, I should say. Now, I will, however, state that if I look throughout time as well, throughout every bull market, there are tons of opportunities. It's just a lot of people don't like to see them because they're too stuck on a very specific coin or a very specific strategy. You have to be flexible. You really have to be. But then, all of a sudden, like now, for example, if you've been farming plasma, all of a sudden, even though you got zero gains for all this time, all of a sudden now, if you bought the Echo sale, you got a 230x on the first round, right? You put $1,000 in, bam, all of a sudden it's 230,000. Or you've been farming, you put $1 in because that's all you had. All of a sudden, since everybody got a $9,000 airdrop, you have $9,000 in a snap. To some people, it's nothing, sure. But for a lot of people, 4 years, nothing. And all of a sudden, they 9,000x their entire portfolio in this case. But also, when I take a look at some of my better trades, you know, for XRP or BTC, we have done it now, and even Doge, multiple times that we turn $1,000 into $50,000, $40,000, and $70,000 just by being patient, you know? And you might say, well, you got lucky on the timing. Not really. Most of them were down at the start, but all of a sudden, I kind of forgot about it for a while. I look back, and in the snap of an eye, and the same, it was up a ton. And the same I had for Nosana, where all of a sudden, it did an 800x to me, kind of overnight. It wasn't true, but hey, for me, because I checked all of a sudden after, or did like a 60x, it felt like it did an 800x overnight in basically out of nowhere. Now, before I move on, I want to quickly say, if I have not said it yet, my main crypto trading strategy is still with bots. And if you're wondering what that's all about, I just basically put the money in, set my settings in, and the link for it is down below, and it basically automatically does everything. Now, if you're thinking, is this a wonderful solution? 50-50. Basically what it does is you insert the parameters and it trades exactly as to how you want it. For example, here we can see, hey, if we go through here, at these levels it's going to buy, at these levels it's going to sell, with exactly the parameters that you insert for it. It's not a magical thing. It just replaces a lot of manual trading that I otherwise would be doing. And we can see the profit. In this case here, this is for the last couple of weeks. Or for Solana, you can see more specifically, on my Sol bot, we've made 20 Sol over the past 2 weeks. Pretty good. So like I said, for that, always the links are down below. And that's basically my main trading strategy right now. Having said that, there's also a project that's quite interesting. I talked about it a few days ago over on Twitter. It's called 𝗓𝗓𝗪. I mean, these guys are pretty interesting. They've got some ridiculous partnerships. Take a look at this. Samsung x 𝗓𝗓𝗪. And they're doing a lot over in the healthcare system. So combining themselves, healthcare, DeSci, and of course, also making sure they don't get left behind on the hype, combining it with AI. And what they're doing right now is they're building out their Atlantis system and basically making a whole freaking healthcare blockchain. I mean, currently 𝗓𝗓𝗪 already has like 18 hospitals in their network, 10,000 healthcare professionals who use it, and over like, I believe 3 million patient records available, all for this medical research. But right now also doing quite a lot of buybacks, basically attached to whoever gets themselves tokens on 𝗓𝗓𝗪. Anyway, if you like medical type of cryptos or medical research type, you can listen to them here in a little AMA, and I'll leave a link for it down below. And also remember, you can never truly leave the crypto market. Screw this market, taking a break, a long ass break. See you guys tomorrow. That's definitely most people out there. And I will add one more thing. Right now, there's a lot of speculation that it's exchanges who are manipulating the crypto market. You know, if you want the real truth, the exchanges, there's two parts. Exchanges on their own with shenanigans, but mostly market makers who, theoretically speaking, can do anything with the price that they want. It just depends on, does it make sense? Does it make sense to print a certain narrative on a specific altcoin? Because remember, even if people like to often throw out the word market maker, but what did they really do? Well, it depends on the coin. It depends on the type of market maker. At the end of the day, to run an exchange, you need liquidity. You need money on both the bid and ask. You need money on the supply and the taking side. And even that supply and taking is for both the sides, for basically trying to buy and basically trying to sell. Now, theoretically speaking, if you want to paint the chart a certain way, you can spend a lot of money right now forcing the price down, and then spend a lot of money trying to force the way up. You could do either. And the whole idea there being, if you're both sides, right? If you are always the buyer and the seller, you are making, for example, this is what they call wash trading. If you're doing the trading yourself, where you're the buyer and the seller, and if there's no real fee involved, right? Sure, some people are taking some little pips here and there, but for the most part, you can basically just rake up a ton of volume without the price moving much at all. But also, you can paint the chart in a certain way to do something or look like something, knowing you'll make it back in the end. This is why some people were really afraid of a massive crash in Bitcoin, because if a massive entity, let's call it the CIA here, were to short it with everything in their power, the US government were to short it with all the money in the world, really, if you start breaking it down, if you short it with all the money and then you try to crash it actively, you know, even though it costs a ton of money to crash it, you actually could make that back end more because of the cascading cells that happen on top of one another. But so if you're wondering, is it, you know, one company or one market maker here doing all this to dump everything? You know, it could be. There could be a certain narrative that they're spinning. And I have told you guys many times before, right, that when we take a look at CZ's Twitter, let me just quickly show it to you here. He said on multiple occasions, he said certain things that in hindsight really look like hints. For example, a few days ago, he said, hey, take a break from Aster and BNB and do one of these. And then pretty much instantly, the market just fell like 15% or 10% on BNB and like 15% or more, maybe 20% on Aster. And it made me realize maybe this indeed was also a hint of, hey, take a little bit of a break. We're overbought and they're going to start dumping the crap out of it, not necessarily to wreck everybody, but partially to take in profits. But also, you know, if we're talking about a lot of the mainstream market makers, one of their bigger goals is to liquidate without affecting the chart too much, or to make sure the chart doesn't pump too much in a hyped up manner so it actually can be sustained. If, for example, a coin like Aster went up too much in a very quick time, it went from 10 cents, let's say 10 cents, yeah, to $17. It could actually happen because of a cascading amount of buys and FOMO. The problem is it will probably go from $17 right all the way back to $3 Most people would get wrecked, everybody would be crying if there was no big entity stepping in to suppress that already had a ton of tokens. So what very often happens is the foundation of it, so in this case here maybe Binance or market maker or multiple market makers of their choosing, they hold a lot of tokens. They were gifted that by the team. This is for liquidity purposes, right? They sell off those tokens in a massive pump. And they do that to make sure the price doesn't bump too much. So then the moment that the market does fall, they can actually buy it back. And there's a lot of examples of different coins that have this exact same rulebook. Matter of fact, I can't name a single coin where the foundation doesn't do that, or they don't have some sort of agreement involved. And there's, again, multiple different gradations to this. For the smaller the coin is, the more shenanigans is going on, by the way. But it also depends on how much money or how many tokens does the team have. What is their ultimate goal? Do they want to cash out as much as possible with the least amount of price impact, or do they want to paint the chart in a certain way? And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I keep saying I'm paying more and more attention to his words, and thus far it's been working pretty beautifully. But also the fact that he's promoting his bags like crazy is making me kind of bullish on coins like Aster. And I really even think maybe I should just stack even more, purely because he's been going all out on the promotion the last couple of days, and I don't want to fade this guy, you know? But anyway, I'll end the talks of manipulation off by one very interesting quote here. I think you guys might love this one as well. How big a position do you have, he asked. $1 billion, I answered. You call that a position? He said dismissingly. He encouraged me to double my position, and I did. And the trade went dramatically further in our favor. Soros had taught me that when you have tremendous conviction on a trade, you have to go for the jugular. It takes courage to be a pig. It takes courage to ride a profit with huge leverage. As far as Soros is concerned, when you're right on something, you can't own enough. And if I look at all my friends that are the richest, 9 out of 10 times, okay, I'm going to say 8 out of 10 times, is because they went for something like a hyperliquid, and they went in with such conviction that it turns your $10 million to $250 million, for example, in a freaking snap in a few months, and you're done. Nobody's ever really done, let me tell you. All right, you can't fathom how much people want. Like, the greed is everlasting. There's nobody that I know that really truly can retire forever unless they're just, no, I wanted to say old, but even most old people, when I say old, I mean like, you know, past retirement age, let's just say. Most people don't retire no more, especially in this industry, because investments, I think it just sticks with you, right? You just want to keep managing them. And at that point, you're not retired if you're managing your investments actively. Anyway, the crypto market will always be manipulated. It's just always going to happen. But for the most part, it happens in our favor. So it's not really too much of a concern. You could argue the same about gold, stocks, the housing market. All of them have been going absolutely astronomical over the past couple of weeks. But a more interesting question does make it, what if those start crumbling down? What if those start crashing? How will our coins react? Because essentially Bitcoin, and by that reason, most of the crypto market should follow along with gold, right? But it's not fully. Okay, but then it should have an inverse correlation to stocks. This is a safe haven, so if they're more afraid of stocks, crypto should be doing good and vice versa, but that's also not the case. As most times stocks do good, cryptos do good. So what is it then? Okay, but if the dollar goes bad, then well, no. The dollar's in one of its worst pasts ever, and even right now, the cryptos are not necessarily doing that well. Matter of fact, if you checked euros to dollars, it's crazy. Right now, it's 1.17. It's ridiculous. All I know is if I'm consistent enough, I'll get through this, regardless of all the shenanigans, manipulation, regardless of all the government pressure, government shutdown, all this, because almost any scenario you can think of should be bullish for our coins, and if it's not, I think it's a temporary thing. Again, I think our coins are going to go so much freaking higher. It's just a matter of patience, and oh boy, have I got time, all right? So, I'm excited for the next market hit. Both up, down, anything is really fine at the end of the day, because it's just temporary. I know where my coins are headed. I just got to focus, dial in, let my bots do the work. I can tell you right now, I'm not having a fun time looking at my bots performing most of the time. Like, to be down a couple $100,000 on these trades, especially if I look at my bluffing, oh man. I can tell you right now, it's not fun, but I know where we're headed eventually, and I know how much I'm gritting out, cashing out every single day from letting these bots run. And a nice thing is also, theoretically speaking, with a lot of these, if you're joining right now, you're getting yourself a better entry than even me. So that's just a little side note. But yeah, that's about it for this little crypto update. It's going to be a solid next couple of days, I think.